Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important topic, and it has been for some while since the start of the Gaza crisis that we've been making a coverage for the incidents, for everyday incidents, and the humanitarian crisis that is occurring in the enclave. Tonight we'll shed light on Egypt's unwavering support for the Palestinian cause and its proposal, or the leadership proposal, to a roadmap to end the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza while reviving the path of the peace process, while at the same time the states, the whole state's rejection, full rejection to the displacement of the Palestinians from their homelands, and putting firmly Sinai as a red line. The prospect of a mass relocation of Palestinians or the Palestinian population from Gaza towards the Sinai Peninsula has been properly rebuffed by the Egyptian leadership and the security circle and the whole population at large. We will also be shedding light on the president's criticism to the inequality and double standards of the international community in dealing with the loss of human lives in the occupied Palestinian territories. Egypt's leadership has always condemned in the clearest terms the targeting, killing and intimidation of all peaceful civilians, and expressed its deep shock that the world is standing still while the catastrophic humanitarian crisis unfolds. We will be also shedding light on Egypt's pivotal role to tackle the humanitarian aspect and support the Palestinian people with the Red Crescent, Decent Life, and the National Alliance for Civil Development Work, all working together to deliver the humanitarian aid trucks to the people inside Gaza. We'll be speaking about all that in our episode tonight. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first have a quick look on the top story of the day. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Presidential spokesman Councillor Ahmed stated that the call dealt with the latest developments in the Israeli military escalation in Gaza, whereas President Sisi stressed the need for the international community to move urgently to push for a ceasefire, pointing to the extremely dangerous humanitarian conditions in addition to the widespread destruction that the Gaza Strip is witnessing, which requires a firm international stance aiming to stop bloodshed, reinforce humanitarian aid, and provide an opportunity for political solution. President Sisi also reviewed the efforts Egypt is exerting on the humanitarian track to bring in aid to alleviate the suffering of the people of the Gaza Strip, as well as receiving a number of critical cases in Egyptian hospitals, in addition to Egyptian efforts to stop the escalation and create the conditions for relaunching a political process to revive the peace process that would lead to a two-state solution. On his spot, the Dutch Prime Minister expressed appreciation for the role played by Egypt in evacuating foreign nationals from the Gaza Strip, coordinating and delivering humanitarian aid, and pushing towards peace and stability in the region. Moving on to our next top story of the day, and Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held a phone call with his Finnish counterpart Elena Veltonen. During their telephone conversation, Shoukry reiterated calls for the international community to support an immediate humanitarian truce to save Palestinians' lives, sustain unimpeded aid delivery, and stop Israel's violation against civilians in the Gaza Strip. Separately, the top diplomat exchanged views with his British counterpart James Cleverly on the ongoing war in Gaza. They agreed on the importance of implementing a humanitarian truce in Gaza, in addition to sustainable access of aid to the enclave. And to our final top story of the day, and Egypt announced on Thursday that it would help evacuate about 7,000 foreigners and dual nationals from the Gaza Strip through the Rafah crossing. During his meeting with foreign diplomats, Assistant Foreign Minister Ismail Khairat said Egypt was preparing to facilitate the reception and evacuation of foreign citizens who were representing more than 60 nationalities. The Health Ministry said 21 wounded Palestinians were brought out for treatment in the Egyptian hospitals, and 344 foreign nationals, including 72 children, also passed through the Rafah boarding crossing. The crossing was opened for limited evacuation for a second day under a deal between Israel, Egypt, Hamas and the United States, aimed at letting some foreign passport holders and their dependents and some wounded Gazans out of the besieged enclave. Egypt said the most badly wounded foreigners and dual nationals could leave Gaza. Right, and back to our topic, and before we delve into our discussion, let me first have this quick report. And President Sisi Biden, U.S. President Biden, probe developments of Gaza escalation, reject displacement of Palestinians. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received a phone call from U.S. President Joe Biden and stressed that Egypt has not and will never allow the displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Egyptian territory. During the call, el-Sisi reiterated Egypt's firm rejection of policies that collectively punish and displace the Palestinian people. Presidential spokesman Ahmed said that the U.S. president, for his part, affirmed that the U.S. likewise rejects the displacement of Palestinians outside their homeland, expressing his appreciation for the positive role played by Egypt in this crisis. President el-Sisi reiterated his call for an immediate humanitarian truce to deliver humanitarian, medical and relief aid to the people of Gaza. Both presidents agreed on the need to increase aid sustainability and at a scale proportionate to humanitarian needs in Gaza. They also discussed prospects for cooperation to realize the two-state solution and establish the Palestinian state in accordance with international law. In its own separate statement, the White House said both presidents discussed the importance of protecting civilian lives, respect for international humanitarian law, and ensuring that Palestinians in Gaza are not displaced to Egypt or any other nation. Since the 7th of October, Israel has carried out a relentless bombardment campaign on the Gaza Strip, killing more than 8,000 and wounding more than 20,000 people. Israeli airstrikes have destroyed more than half of the homes in Gaza, leaving more than 1.5 million Palestinians without shelter. Moreover, Israel has put 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza under a complete blockade, cutting off all access to food, water, power and fuel supplies, despite global warnings of a developing humanitarian catastrophe. Egypt has designated Al Arish Airport in North Sinai to receive life-saving supplies from international and regional parties to be delivered to the Palestinians through the Rafah border crossing, the only point not controlled by Israel. Al Arish Airport has received over 50 planes from various countries carrying humanitarian aid to be delivered to Gaza. Israel has so far allowed a trickle of desperately needed aid into the blockaded Palestinian territory. More than 100 trucks of aid are needed per day to cover urgent needs. Tens of trucks have been stalled on the Egyptian side of the crossing, waiting to enter Gaza. The UNRWA called on the international community to pressure Israel to allow humanitarian aid to Gaza, saying many people are going hungry in the Strip. The UN General Assembly agreed on a resolution drafted by the Arab group calling for an immediate humanitarian truce to preserve civilian lives and allow the immediate entry of sufficient relief aid to the Gaza Strip.
Right, welcome back, and let me here welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Ahmed Safti, expert in international and economic relations. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And as we have seen and followed up the report and also the top stories, and this has been ongoing for some while, the context Egypt is making through the leadership and definitely all the Egyptian institutions, the messages sent by the president through all contacts and communication.
Well, it's a very clear message. We totally support the Palestinians as long as they are inside Gaza. One thing for sure, Egypt have never, ever let the Palestinians alone. We have always been there for them, whether in war or in peace. When we went to peace with Israel at 1977, they were the first people invited to this treaty. Okay? At that time, the general understanding of the conflict between Israel and the Arab world was not easy to understand the idea. Always new ideas are very difficult to be absorbed, especially if the people are normal people. Okay? So at 1977, the PLO at that time, Yasser Arafat, he had different people influencing his decision. The Iraqi president, the Syrian president, and others as well. All of those went against the peace treaty. That's why he could not join Sadat at that time. So at 1973, when we went into a war with Israel, Palestine was our main concern at that time. Yes, we had our own occupied lands, but the fight, the main logo of the fight was not to free our occupied land, but to free Palestine as well.
The Arab lands at large.
This is the idea.
Because there was also the Golan Heights, the Shabab Farms, and definitely the Palestinian-occupied territories.
So this is a position that was never changed at any time. Okay. Today, we are going through a human massacre. Okay. Nothing, for myself, I did not see this before. I have never seen this
indeed.
before. Okay? I'm 57 years old, so I've watched lots of conflicts. But what I'm seeing now is something crazy. Something cannot be accepted by any human or even animal mind or brain. Nevertheless, we have a stand position. Our borders is a red line. Why is it a red line? Because simply, if anything happened, Gaza Strip is plus the West Bank, this is the only left part of the Palestinian
territories. Yes.
This is the only two left parts. So if we are going to let this, next step is going to be to work to do the same crime with the West Bank, to push the Palestinians to Jordan. So the Palestinian case itself is going to end into nothing. Okay, this is what's inside the mentality.
There will be no Palestine.
This is the idea. This is what's inside the mentality of not only the Israeli government, but the American government as well, the French and the British. Simply, why did Israel exist from the very beginning? They wanted to get rid of the Jew in Europe. They were causing huge problems in Europe. Each European country wanted to get rid of its own Jew. That's why they created Israel from the very beginning. Why is every president in Europe trying to go to Israel and to tell them, don't worry, everything is going to be fine? Because until now, people living in Israel, most of them holds two nationalities. An original nationality, French, German, American, or whatsoever, and the second nationality, which is the Israeli one. So the whole Europe is afraid again that those Jews who at the end, they managed to get rid out of them by pushing them into Israel, by the events happening, which is already happening now, okay? They are going to go back again to Europe. They're going to go back to France, to Germany, and to States, and so on. So all of them are running to Israel, trying to make things comfort. Don't go back. I mean, as if they are telling them, they cannot forbid them from going back to their own home countries, but they try to give them any sort of assurance, any kind of financial bribe. The huge amount of aid given to Israel right now because of such an incident is ridiculous. I mean, Biden was there a month ago trying to get the federal government working, trying to get funds for the federal government. And now all of a sudden he's giving all of those billions to Israel. Germany is the same thing. Britain is the same thing. France is the same thing. Why are they so afraid of this war? Not because of that they're afraid that the Palestinians are going to win the war and they're going to they are going to finish the existence of Israel. This is not going to happen. Not now. It will happen. Eventually, this is going to happen, but not with the
eventually, we are in peace.
Yes, I know.
We are in Egypt is so far
I'm not talking about Egypt.
And the existence of Israel in its state, that's
well,
we're not tackling.
I'm not tackling the Egyptian. I'm talking about the whole international environment.
Yes.
There have never been an apartheid system which did not end. Do you know an apartheid system that still exists except in Israel?
Actually, no.
No. In South Africa, how long did it last? For almost a century.
Yes.
Did it end or not?
It did.
It ended. No one could ever imagine this, but it did.
It did, in a peaceful way.
Yes. It's going
so
to
that
end.
people would not suffer.
That's why I'm saying it's going to end.
Or carry the brunt.
I did not say it's going to end by war or anything, but I'm saying eventually this is going to end, whether we like it or not.
No, what I mean here was the violence, the uncalculated for violence that occurred. But
it's meant to push the emotions of the whole Arab world, to put the pressure on the Egyptian government. This kind of vicious violence is meant to happen.
But still, the collective punishment is tremendous.
Definitely.
And what is unfolding in the occupied Palestinian territories are really
Why are they doing
unprecedented.
This? Why? Why they are doing this? Don't they know it? They know it. There is demonstrations inside their own countries against this, right or not? Why are they going through this huge massacre that they are committing right now? They want to put a huge pressure, an incredible pressure on the Egyptian government to change its position, to open the borders and to absorb the Palestinians in refugee camps in Sinai. All of this, all of what we are seeing is a kind of psychological, emotional pressure trying to put Egypt, if you see the CNN, if you see the Euronews and all of those things, all what they are saying that Egypt is not opening Rafah. Egypt is not opening Rafah. What does Egypt have to do with this?
Indeed. You just pinpointed your finger on a proposal made already by the German foreign minister.
Yes.
Putting Palestinians in refugees.
Yes.
How do you view such a proposal?
This is not, I'm saying, we have to stop dealing with the German Minister of Foreign Affairs or Prime Minister as if he was different from the French one or the British or the American. No. This is a collective position being done by Israel and the assistance of those who are assisting in the crime which is running right now. All of those countries, all of those responsible people, they have the same responsibility exactly as the Israeli officials does have. They approve what's going on. They are on the table. They put an offer, the carrot, and then on the other hand, the stick. Okay? The carrot is accept that, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 for Egypt. Okay? The stick is, if you don't accept that, do you see how things are going? We're going to keep telling everyone in the world that it's Egypt who is stopping the Palestinians from saving their lives. This is a dramatic story. It's a very bad story. I mean, the writer of this story is almost stupid. We have fallen into this trap several times before.
Let me here take it, since we are the daily debate, So let me be the other side, and you tell me the complete rejection of Egypt for the Palestinian displacement. How is it, or the purpose of that from the other side or from the Western side? Why are you refusing? It's just temporary. And then Palestinians will come back when they finish the Hamas fighters, and they will just stay for temporary time. So why all this hassle? And isn't that where was what is said by the whole Western community? How do you view that from an Egyptian perspective?
Well, temporary is exactly like when the devil said, eat the apple and you will last forever. This is the word temporary for us. Temporary, we have heard this in 1948. Temporary, we have heard this in 1956. We have heard it in 1967. We have heard this word temporary a lot, by the way, and it was never temporary. Temporary, what does it mean in time scale? Give me a time scale. For example, temporary is something, it's like tomorrow will never come. This is exactly like saying someday this will happen.
Someday, one hour.
Someday.
Whenever.
This is the idea. We have fallen into that trap several times before. We are not that foolish or stupid to fall on this trap again. And if we, why am I saying this? I have to say, if we, under any circumstances, had to accept this alternative, if we, it would definitely be because of very unpleasant events that might occur if we did not accept it.
No, we're not.
But for the now,
whatever.
For now, it's not going to be it's not acceptable, and it's not going to be. It will not go through. For now,
it will never. Will never.
Hopefully, it will not.
Will never.
Hopefully, it will.
Let me take it from the other.
I'm really not that much optimistic when it comes to future events and to the conspiracy.
No. It's just
theory from the top leaders of the world.
No. It's just
shameful. It's shameful to see United States, France, Britain, Germany, and Israel on one line. This is shameful. What's happening?
Indeed. When we come back, we'll take it from the perspective of the Palestinians.
Okay.
But before we move on, let me take this second report. And Egypt will not allow resolution of regional issue at its own expenses, according to the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli paid a visit to Sinai Peninsula to inspect a number of development projects, in a visit intended to underline the centrality of Sinai to Egypt's national security. Madbouli arrived in Al Arish city, the capital of North Sinai, where he attended a ceremony alongside tribal leaders, cabinet ministers, politicians, MPs, actors and media professionals at the headquarters of Battalion 101, the military unit whose fight to rid the peninsula of terrorist organizations and extremist groups. Madbouli also visited the Rafah border crossing, where he saw dozens of trucks passing into Gaza to deliver humanitarian supplies, and laid the foundation stone for a number of new housing communities in North Sinai. Addressing attendance in Al Arish, Dr. Madbouli said that Egypt will never allow neither being subjected to a forced reality nor the resolution of a regional issue at its expense, adding that Egyptians are ready to sacrifice their souls to defend Sinai against all forms of aggression. He stressed that thousands of Egyptians sacrificed their lives in the wars of 1956, 1967 and 1973 to defend Sinai, and today they must keep Sinai safe by reconstructing and populating it. Madbouli noted that the first stage of developing Sinai had focused on infrastructure projects and under President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in 2014, adding that more than £600 billion had been spent on developing Sinai. He said that North Sinai alone has been allocated £290 billion to implement more than 1,000 projects and showcased that the government had already created 11 Bedouin residential clusters in North and Middle Sinai, only after winning the battle against terrorist groups and clearing old land from explosives and landmines. As for connecting Sinai with the mainland, the Prime Minister showcased that 11 tunnels had been extended beneath the Suez Canal for that purpose, in addition to introducing Bardawil International Airport in Middle Sinai. The Premier said that £363 billion had been allocated to implement 302 projects in the second stage of development, of which £115 billion will be spent to build new housing units and communities in North Sinai, and £2.5 billion to construct 13 tourist projects. Dr. Madbouli said the second stage of development in Sinai will also include cultivating additional 290,000 faddans in the north and center of the peninsula, building a railway line that will terminate at Taba, and spending £20 billion to turn Al Arish port and airport into an international logistics and trade hub. The budget also consists of £115 billion that will be directed to building houses in North Sinai, and that will be divided into 21 Bedouin residential clusters, revealing that the first phase of New Rafah had been completed, and that the construction of other phases would follow. On another level, Egypt plans to implement 13 tourism projects in North Sinai at £2.5 billion, as well as introduce industrial zones in the governorate towns of Rafah and Nakhl. According to the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, CAPMAS, 450,528 people live in North Sinai, and 111,108 people in the governorate of South Sinai. The peninsula comprises 61,000 square kilometers, or 6% of Egypt's total land area. In his speech during the Prime Minister's visit to North Sinai, Commander of the Egyptian Second Army, Major General Muhammad Rabia, affirmed readiness to protect Egypt's national security. The commander also greeted members of the Egyptian armed forces, police and tribes for cleansing Sinai from terrorism, saying that the explosive disposal was still ongoing. The comprehensive national plan to change life in Sinai, the land of turquoise, a recent report by the Cabinet's Information and Decision Support Center, sheds light on government's efforts to develop Sinai, highlighting efforts to build a robust industrial infrastructure to attract investments to the peninsula. Infrastructure projects include roads, bridges, drinking water stations, sanitation, agriculture, irrigation, education, and transportation. The report also noted how cultivated land in Sinai had increased by 500,000 faddans in the last 9 years, mostly round Al Salam Canal. Planning Minister Hala Said told the House of Representatives last June that government allocations in fiscal year 2023-2024 for the development of North Sinai Governorate amounted to £290 billion. Al-Said said the service sector accounted for 55% of government investments directed to North Sinai, followed by the construction sector at 10.5% and agriculture and land reclamation schemes at 6.4%.
Right. Welcome back. And terms that were said by the president, definitely the president has described the ongoing situation in the Gaza Strip, collective punishment, war crimes, and many of the president's description and the leadership description to what's going on. The international community's response towards the ongoing incidents, all this has put us in some situation where we don't understand how will this unfold. But we have seen a kind of change in the international community's response. So we've seen some of the demonstrations in many of the countries from nations. We've seen even resignations inside Israel by some members of the Likud. How do you view here this contradicting position by or inside the international communities itself?
At the beginning, you have said that I'm a professor of economics. I have friends of mine who are professors of international law. They think, after what's going on right now, that a subject like international law should not be applicable anymore in any university or any faculty, because it's the law of force or the law of power. This is to that extent the academics are seeing the situation incredibly ugly. Okay? Now, going back again, we have seen nations going against its own governments. Actually, the position that's what's going on right now, in spite of its being a huge tragedy, huge human tragedy, okay? But there's things that we do not know happening. There's changes. The Palestinian case itself was almost dead. When was the last time the media talked about the resolution of two states? Very long time ago. When was it the last time the media took Palestine case in a serious manner? Very long time ago. Always, there is something that always happens, generation after generation, to keep this cause live. The idea is not only the media, because most of the European or the Western media is not true, it's false. They don't speak the truth or the facts. But the idea now is, thanks for the power of the social media, that they have created every single citizen in Europe, in the States, and everywhere, every human being is seeing what's happening. Now they are asking, why is this happening? And then they tell them, there is a story about a country which was called Palestine, which was given at by Balfour promise or Balfour agreement with some kind of Zionist person and so on. There is Jewish generation which is being raised now in the West, who is going against this in a very strong way. Actually, Israel was not built up or was not established by people who believes in the Jew religion. They were Zionized, they were ethnic, they do not believe in anything. Okay? So what's happening right now is again making everyone, educating everyone in the world with the case of Palestine. There is kids who are 10 years old, 11 years old, 7 years old. They didn't know anything about this case. Even in our own countries, even in the Arab countries, they have not seen how rude Israel is, how brutal it is, how an occupation. I mean, they have been fed by the Western media, by the social media, that it's the icon of technology, that it's a wonderful economy, it's a huge democracy. That's what's being told to the whole world. That's what the world believed about Israel before what's going on. Now, no. There's a total different story. I know this. Why? Because I have relatives who live abroad who know that those things are changing. They share it every day on every social media tool that they have. The whole world is seeing what's going, and they are asking why.
You mean here the ugly face showed up.
This is the idea. The ugly face which almost everyone forgot about it. Even the Arabs, even us, even our youth. I have sons who are 16 and 18 years old. They didn't understand that it's that crucial, by the way. They couldn't imagine that this is what Israel is. Before, it used to be like a kind of a debate. They are kicking us and they are kicking them. They are fighting us and we are fighting them. But what's happening now is not a fight and it's not a war. It's a total different thing. Everyone is seeing this. This is a blessing from God, because if this did not happen, the whole case would have ended. Of those who support Israel, unfortunately, was telling me, what if Hamas did not do what it did? How would have things been going? I told him no. I asked another thing. What if Hamas did what it did? How is it going to be going? It's the same thing for them. I mean, it's not like they have been in heaven and all of a sudden they are suffering hell. No, it's only a different type of hell. This is what's about. In the last 10 years, due to the resistance, only 30 Israelis were killed. On the other hand, before this, before the 7th of October, I'm talking about 10 years before 7th of October, on the other hand, on the Palestinian side, 4,000 Palestinians were killed by raids, okay, by Air Force attacks.
This time they have exceeded the 9,000.
Well, okay, that's fine. They have exceeded the 9,000. They have exceeded 11,000. They have exceeded 15,000. We are not counting just numbers. I know that they are human souls. But for a case,
yes,
for a very just case, they are defending their own land, their own freedom.
Algeria
their own
lost
character.
1 million?
Algeria lost 1 million. South Africa lost more or less number like this. We have lost a lot. Every country have had its own.
Hundreds of thousands
to
liberate our lands.
Even Europe. They have suffered the second World War and the First World War, right or not?
Right.
How many millions were killed, and by that time, how much percent were they from the global human beings number? Okay, this is the idea.
No, we're not speaking
They are
about the
definitely
percentage. They are all human beings,
They
but
are, no, I mean,
it's for a cause.
a million at the First World War equals 10 million now. That's what I meant.
Yes.
Because at that time, the million was a huge number compared to the kind of women being used and so on in the First World War. Going back again where we are. The cause is just, and it needs free people to defend it. And at the end, who is not going to die?
The roadmap, the Egyptian leadership...
Actually, I envy them. I wish if I was there. At the end of the day, we're all going to die. No one's going to live forever.
So let's live it with honor, or die with honor.
This is the idea, in a very simple way.
The
And
roadmap...
when it comes to my own country, I want to do the same thing.
We're all
Regardless what.
We will all do. We will all do. The roadmap that was put by Egypt for a permanent and comprehensive solution to this cause, how do you view it? And how do you view that this is the only way for peace?
It's the only logic way. Logic. But this is not the time of logic. No one is taking logic into consideration right now. Okay? What's going right now? Any resolution to put it or to force people to go into it, it needs power. Unfortunately, the Egyptians or the Egypt government is taking the biggest, the most huge part of the responsibility. And we cannot find proper support from our own neighbors, from the Arab countries. This is the idea. To this resolution, whether it's the Egypt plan, or whether it's the Saudi demands, or whether it's whatsoever we are going to talk about, to put any plan into true movement and to put it into place and people start moving it, it needs something to force it happening. It's always your plan and the counter plan. Who's going to win at the end? This depends on the circumstances. Now, we, as Egyptian people, as Egyptian government, first of all, as Egyptian people, we trust our government a lot. One of the good things about what's happening, that it united us back again. We used to have our own differences in Egypt here concerning our government and our president and everything. Now we are all united more than ever. Meanwhile, in Israel, they are not. Meanwhile, in Israel, they are not anymore. Meanwhile, in the States, Biden is not going to be re-elected again for the presidency. I can confirm this to you. Netanyahu will not be re-elected again in Israel. I can confirm this to you right now. All these mistakes being done, they are going to pay for it. Politically speaking, and from the human point of speech speaking. Okay? On the other hand, we are united.
Of course we are.
This is the idea. We have to look to the bright side. Because if you only look to the dark side, we're going to live a kind of misery which is not going to lead us nowhere. We have always to think of the bright side, plus knowing and understanding the dark side. This is the idea.
Unfortunately, my time is out, but I will leave it here. Yes, definitely we are united, and we are in the back of our leadership and our government. And I guess we'll leave it here, and we'll see how things will unfold.
It's going to fold in a very nice way.
Dr. Ahmed Safti, expert in international and economic relations, thank you so much for being with us and for your input.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, many thanks for watching. We'll see what will happen after the next debate. Many thanks for watching. Good night.